Society expects seniors to age gracefully, go quietly into that good night. But what I've discovered working with thousands of older adults, the happiest ones are doing the exact opposite. Those difficult behaviors your family complains about, the stubborn choices that raise eyebrows, what if they're not flaws at all, but proof you're finally living authentically? Today, I'm revealing 7 so-called ugly behaviors that actually signal you're thriving. And number 4, it completely transformed how Patricia approached retirement after 40 years of people-pleasing, and it might do the same for you. Meet Patricia. At 72, she spent 4 decades as a corporate accountant, always the responsible one, always following the rules. The woman who color-coded her calendar, never missed a deadline, and built her identity around meeting others' expectations. When retirement finally arrived, Patricia found herself adrift in a world that suddenly seemed to look through her rather than at her. Store clerks addressed her adult daughter instead of her. Doctors dismissed her concerns as just aging. Family gatherings relegated her to the corner chair while younger generations took center stage. I felt like I'd become invisible, she confessed, as if society had a very narrow script for how I was supposed to quietly fade away. But something unexpected happened in Patricia's 5th year of retirement. She stopped following that script. Today, her neighbours whisper that she's become eccentric. Her adult children think she's being unnecessarily difficult. Her former colleagues barely recognise her. But here's what matters. Patricia hasn't felt this alive since her 20s. Her blood pressure is down, her energy is up, and for the first time in decades, she's truly living on her own terms. The transformation came from embracing 7 behaviours that society tells seniors to avoid, 7 so-called ugly habits that are actually powerful indicators you're finally thriving in your golden years. This isn't about being rebellious for its own sake. It's about reclaiming your authentic self after years of compromise. If you're tired of people telling you how to age appropriately, this channel provides the permission slip you never knew you needed. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell right now so you don't miss our weekly reality checks that will transform how you experience your senior years. And if this message already resonates, tap that like button to help other seniors find this video. Your like could be the lifeline someone else needs to break free from outdated expectations. Society has a clear expectation for seniors. Be endlessly accommodating, be the emergency babysitter, the reliable volunteer, the community pillar always ready to help. Your time is less valuable than everyone else's because, well, you're not working anymore. Sound familiar? After retirement, I became everyone's go-to person, she explains. My daughter needed last-minute childcare. I'd drop everything. The community centre needed volunteers. I'd be there 3 days a week. My church needed someone to organise the fundraiser. Somehow it always fell to me. The constant yes took its toll. 6 months into this exhausting routine, Patricia found herself in the emergency room with chest pains and blood pressure so high her doctor was alarmed. He looked me straight in the eye and asked, "What are you saying yes to that your body is screaming no about?" That question changed everything. Patricia started a radical experiment, saying no without offering explanations or apologies. No to the family reunion she dreaded, no to babysitting when she had planned a day of reading, no to heading the neighbourhood watch when she knew it would drain her energy. The first few times felt terrifying, she admits. I'd been conditioned to believe my worth came from being useful to others. Just saying, "I'm sorry, I can't do that," without a lengthy justification felt like jumping off a cliff. But here's what research confirms. Boundary setting becomes increasingly important for psychological well-being as we age. A 2022 study from the Journal of Gerontology found that older adults who maintained strong personal boundaries reported 60% less stress and significantly better health outcomes than their perpetually accommodating peers. The most surprising result wasn't just Patricia's improved health, it was how her relationships transformed. The people who truly valued me adjusted. Those who just wanted what I could do for them drifted away, she explains. I discovered who my real support system was, and those relationships deepened because I was showing up as my authentic self, not as an exhausted people-pleaser. Patricia now follows what she calls her oxygen mask principle. If I don't take care of my needs first, I'll have nothing meaningful to offer anyone else. So I'm curious, when was the last time you said no without feeling the need to explain yourself? Share in the comments how people reacted. Was it as catastrophic as you feared, or did you experience unexpected respect? But if saying no feels uncomfortable right now, just wait until you see what these thriving seniors are doing with their money. The second ugly behavior might just change how you think about your retirement savings forever. We've all heard the retirement money mantra: be frugal, cut expenses, preserve capital, leave something for the kids. The golden years? More like the penny-pinching years for many seniors who've internalized that their wants and desires should now take a permanent back seat. For Patricia, this mindset shift happened in the most unexpected way. At a funeral. My neighbour Judith was the epitome of responsible retirement, Patricia recalls. She clipped coupons, never updated her 30-year-old furniture, and said no to every travel opportunity because that money needs to last. When Judith passed away at 82, Patricia discovered something that haunted her. Judith had over $800,000 still in her accounts, money she'd never enjoyed, and a journal full of experiences she'd hoped to have someday. There was an entry about wanting to see the Northern Lights, Patricia says, her voice quieting. She could have gone 10 times over, but someday never came. That night, Patricia did something her financial advisor would call irresponsible. She created what she now calls her life enhancement budget, 10% of her retirement savings specifically designated for experiences and items that bring genuine joy. Within 6 months, she had signed up for a photography workshop in Iceland, where she finally saw those northern lights, replaced her worn wardrobe with comfortable but stylish clothing that made her feel confident, and upgraded her basic kitchen tools to support her cooking hobby. My children were horrified at first, she laughs. My son actually said, "Mum, do you know how much those knives cost?" She smiles. I told him I'd been cutting with dull knives for 40 years so everyone else could have what they needed. My turn now. The science supports Patricia's rebellion. A 2023 study in the Journal of Consumer Psychology found that experiential purchases provide significantly higher happiness returns for older adults than material goods or simply saving. Even more interesting, researchers at Stanford discovered that novel experiences in retirement years are associated with improved cognitive function and lower rates of depression. But let's address the elephant in the room: financial security matters. That's why Patricia follows what financial gerontologists now recommend as the 70/20/10 rule: 70% of retirement funds for essential security, housing, healthcare, basic needs, 20% for legacy goals, if desired, and 10% for life enhancement with zero guilt. That 10% has given me more joy than the other 90% combined, Patricia insists. And here's the irony. Because I'm happier and more engaged, I'm spending less on healthcare and medications than most of my friends. So here's my question to you. What's one supposedly frivolous purchase you've been postponing that might actually enhance your daily joy? Maybe it's a cooking class, a better mattress, concert tickets, or just some ridiculously soft towels. Tell us below what you've been denying yourself. The third behavior on our list might seem downright antisocial to some people, but it's an absolute game changer for mental health after 65. We've all heard it. Seniors need to stay social, join clubs, volunteer, say yes to every invitation. The conventional wisdom suggests that older adults should cast wide social nets and be universally kind and agreeable to avoid isolation. But what if that advice is actually draining your life force? Patricia. For Patricia, the awakening came during a weekly lunch with her retirement community's social group, an obligation she'd maintained for 3 years despite secretly dreading it. I'd come home exhausted and need a 2-hour nap, she confesses. One Thursday, I realized I'd spent more time that week with people who drained me than with the few friends who truly energized me. Something had to change. Patricia made what her daughter called a ruthless decision. She conducted a relationship audit of everyone in her life. The method was simple but revolutionary. She asked herself one question about each person. Patricia, does this person add energy to my life or subtract from it? The results shocked her. Nearly 60% of her social interactions were with energy-draining people, complainers, drama creators, and those who subtly undermined her. Only 20% genuinely energized her. The remaining 20% were neutral. Patricia. Society tells us that as we age we should be grateful for any social connection, Patricia says. But that's nonsense. Bad company isn't better than solitude, it's worse. Her approach wasn't to cut people off coldly, but to strategically reorganize her social world into clear tiers. Inner circle. The 20% who energized her received 60% of her social time. Middle tier. The neutral 20% received 30% of her social time. Outer circle. The draining 60% received only 10% of her social time through carefully managed group settings. Patricia, I invented what I call the group boundary. I see certain people only in groups where their negative energy gets diluted, she explains with a knowing smile. The research strongly supports Patricia's approach. A landmark Harvard study spanning over 80 years found that the quality of relationships, not the quantity, was the strongest predictor of both happiness and longevity in older adults. Even more telling, a 2021 Yale study discovered that interactions with negative social connections actually accelerate cognitive decline. Patricia, now I know what you're thinking, but won't I end up lonely if I start limiting relationships? Patricia's experience suggests the opposite. When I stopped wasting energy on draining relationships, I had more capacity to deepen the meaningful ones and even develop new positive connections. I'm actually less lonely now with my smaller curated circle. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You've earned the right to be selective about who gets your time and energy. Every hour spent with someone who drains you is an hour not spent with someone who could lift you up. So I'm curious, is there a relationship in your life that consistently depletes your energy? How might your days change if you limited that interaction to make space for more life-giving connections? Share your thoughts in the comments. But nothing raises eyebrows quite like the fourth behavior on our list. When Patricia started doing this, her own sister called it completely inappropriate for a woman her age. This is where Patricia's story takes its most dramatic turn. The behavior that changed everything for her came from asking one simple revolutionary question: who exactly decides what's age-appropriate anyway? We all know society's script for seniors: gentle walks, bingo nights, water aerobics, and quiet hobbies that don't inconvenience anyone. Activities that keep older adults safely contained, predictable, and, let's be honest, largely invisible. Patricia had dutifully attended her senior centre's water aerobics class for 2 years. It was fine, she says with a dismissive wave, safe, expected, and soul-crushingly boring. Then came the day that changed everything. Walking home from the community centre, she passed a dance studio with windows facing the street. Inside, a diverse group was moving with energy and joy to hip-hop beats. Patricia? Something just clicked, Patricia recalls. I stood there watching for 20 minutes, completely mesmerized. That night I couldn't sleep thinking about it. The next day she did something that shocked everyone, including herself. She cancelled her water aerobics membership and signed up for a beginner's hip-hop dance class where the next oldest participant was 32. Patricia. My daughter was mortified when I told her. My friends thought I'd lost my mind. The woman at the registration desk asked 3 times if I understood what kind of class it was. Patricia's first class was a humbling experience. I was terrible. Absolutely terrible, she laughs. I couldn't keep up, my coordination was off, and I was sore in places I didn't know could get sore. What surprised her wasn't the physical challenge, but the social reception. I expected the younger dancers to be annoyed by my presence, she admits. Instead, they were incredibly supportive. One young woman told me I was her hero for even showing up. 6 months later, Patricia had developed not just new moves, but new neural pathways. The science behind this is fascinating. Research from the Journal of Neuroscience shows that novel, challenging activities, especially those combining physical movement, music, and social interaction, create what neurologists call cognitive reserve, which can delay dementia onset by up to 7 years. Patricia: my balance improved, my confidence soared, and my doctor was shocked by my cognitive test results, Patricia says. But the biggest change was internal. Once I broke that barrier of appropriate behavior, I started questioning every other limitation I'd accepted about aging. This ripple effect transformed her entire approach to her senior years. After hip-hop came motorcycle riding lessons, then an improv comedy workshop, then a trip to a music festival where she was the only attendee over 40. Patricia, age-appropriate, Patricia now believes, is often code for convenient for others or invisible. It's a way to contain seniors in comfortable stereotypes that don't challenge society's view of aging. Patricia, her philosophy now? If it interests you and doesn't harm anyone, it's age-appropriate for you, regardless of whether it makes others uncomfortable. I'm genuinely curious, what inappropriate activity would you try if you knew no one was judging? Maybe it's learning to skateboard, taking pole dancing fitness classes, going to a rock concert, or wearing clothes that aren't senior-approved. Share your secret interest in the comments below. The fifth behavior might seem small compared to hip-hop dancing at 72, but it's perhaps the most revolutionary act of all when it comes to reclaiming your life after 60. If there's one expectation of seniors that's nearly universal, it's this: your life should now revolve around family needs, particularly those of adult children and grandchildren. Your preferences? Secondary. Your joy? Nice but optional. Your purpose? Family support, full stop. This is where Patricia faced her most difficult challenge yet. 3 years into retirement, her daughter Lisa called with news. The family was moving to Minneapolis for her husband's career advancement. The conversation quickly turned to Patricia's obvious next step. "Mum, we've already started looking at senior communities near our new neighborhood," Lisa told her. "You'll be able to see the grandkids several times a week instead of just holidays." There was just one devastating problem. Patricia loved her coastal community in North Carolina. The ocean view from her condo balcony, her walking group, her local friends, the climate that eased her arthritis, all would be sacrificed for proximity to family. "I felt physically ill considering the move," Patricia admits, but also crushingly guilty for not wanting to go. What kind of grandmother doesn't want to be near her grandchildren? The turning point came during a routine checkup. When her doctor asked why her blood pressure was elevated, Patricia burst into tears, explaining her dilemma. "He looked at me and asked something no one else had. 'What do you want, Patricia?' she recalls. Then he told me something I'll never forget, that he'd seen countless seniors decline rapidly after relocating for family, not because proximity to family is bad, but because sacrificing your core needs rarely leads to flourishing." Patricia made what she calls the most difficult and liberating decision of her life. She stayed put. "I told Lisa I would visit regularly, contribute to plane tickets for the grandchildren to spend extended summertime with me, and schedule weekly video calls, but that I needed to stay in my coastal home." The initial reaction was painful. Disappointment, accusations of selfishness, even a 3-week period where Lisa didn't return her calls. "I held firm, though it broke my heart," Patricia says. "I kept reminding myself that modeling self-respect might be the most important lesson I could teach my grandchildren." The unexpected outcome emerged about 6 months later. Lisa called with a different tone. She told me she'd been watching how I was creating a life that truly nourished me, and it had made her reconsider some of her own choices, Patricia explains, still sounding surprised. She said seeing me prioritize my needs actually gave her permission to examine her own. Today, their relationship is stronger than ever. The grandchildren spend a month each summer at Grandma's beach house. Lisa and her husband enjoy adult-only getaways to visit Patricia twice yearly. And they've all discovered that quality connection isn't necessarily about proximity. Research strongly supports Patricia's choice. A landmark study in the gerontologist found that seniors who maintain autonomy in major life decisions report 43% higher life satisfaction and significantly better health outcomes than those who surrender decision-making to others' expectations. Take a moment to consider, how many of your current life choices are based on what others expect, rather than what truly nurtures you? What small or large decisions are you making to please others at the expense of your own well-being? Have you ever made a decision that initially disappointed your family but proved right for you in the long run? How did it affect your relationships over time? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear today. But if prioritizing yourself still feels uncomfortably selfish, wait until you hear about the sixth behavior that challenges our deepest cultural conditioning. There's a peculiar expectation that emerges as we age. Seniors should be the peacekeepers, the ones who smile politely, nod along to avoid rocking the boat, and keep their opinions moderate and inoffensive. The stereotype of the sweet, agreeable grandparent who never challenges anyone is deeply ingrained in our culture. Patricia lived by this unwritten rule for years, swallowing her true thoughts to maintain surface-level harmony. At family gatherings, I'd bite my tongue when discussions turned to politics, religion, or social issues, she admits. If someone made a statement I strongly disagreed with, I'd change the subject or retreat to the kitchen. I thought that was my role, to keep the peace at all costs. The catalyst for change came unexpectedly during a community forum about a local development project. Patricia had serious concerns about the environmental impact, but sat silently as others spoke. Afterward, a woman in her 40s approached me and said, "I was hoping you'd share your perspective. You've lived here longer than most of us and probably have valuable insights we didn't consider." That comment stunned Patricia. I realized I'd been silencing myself not just out of politeness, but because I'd internalized the idea that my opinions mattered less as I aged. I was making myself intellectually invisible. She began a deliberate practice of speaking up, not confrontationally, but thoughtfully and with conviction. She started with low-stakes situations like book club discussions, then graduated to more significant forums. The key distinction Patricia discovered was between productive disagreement and pointless arguing. I learned to ask myself, am I speaking up because this matter has real consequences, or am I just trying to prove I'm right? If it's the former, I owe it to myself and others to contribute. If it's the latter, silence might indeed be wiser. The cognitive benefits of this approach are substantial. Neuroscience research from the University of California shows that engaging in intellectual debate and defending viewpoints activates multiple brain regions, creating what researchers call cognitive resistance training, mental exercise that strengthens neural pathways and potentially delays cognitive decline. My memory and verbal fluency have actually improved since I stopped nodding along and started engaging fully, Patricia notes. It's like my brain was hungry for this kind of stimulation. The social impact was equally surprising. While some friends drifted away, uncomfortable with her newfound voice, Patricia discovered a community of independent thinkers who valued substance over superficial harmony. My relationships now have more depth, she explains. We can disagree respectfully and still care deeply for each other. That's real connection, not the polite distance I'd settled for before. There's an important nuance here. Embracing healthy conflict doesn't mean becoming argumentative or insensitive. Patricia is quick to point out the difference. Being disagreeable means challenging others for the sake of opposition. Engaging thoughtfully means offering your authentic perspective while remaining open to learning from others. One builds walls, the other builds bridges, just sturdier bridges than those built on artificial agreement. So I'm curious, what's one opinion or perspective you've been hesitant to express? Could voicing it respectfully actually deepen your relationships rather than damage them? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And finally, the seventh behavior might be the most taboo of all. When Patricia started doing this, even her closest friends were shocked. We've arrived at the behavior many find most uncomfortable of all, one that challenges our deepest cultural avoidance. Society expects seniors to approach end-of-life planning with euphemisms, vague terms, and minimal detail. Getting affairs in order, and when I'm gone, replace direct language. Family members change the subject. Doctors hesitate to initiate the conversation. Patricia witnessed this avoidance firsthand when her brother passed away unexpectedly. He had a basic will: But no one knew what kind of funeral he wanted, which possessions held special meaning for him, or his wishes about medical interventions, she recalls. His children were paralyzed by these decisions during their deepest grief, all because these conversations seemed too uncomfortable during life. This experience catalyzed what Patricia calls her radical honesty project. She created not just a living will and advance directive, but a comprehensive end-of-life plan addressing every aspect of her final chapter. I documented my specific wishes about medical interventions, which ones I want and which ones I absolutely refuse, she explains. I outlined my funeral preferences down to the music and readings. I created a digital legacy plan for my online accounts and photos. I even wrote letters to each loved one to be opened after I'm gone. The most transformative part, however, was initiating direct conversations about these decisions. I scheduled a dedicated appointment with my doctor specifically to discuss end-of-life care, Patricia says. I told him, I don't want to have this conversation while I'm in crisis, and neither do you. Let's talk now, clearly and directly. Then came the family discussions. Patricia invited her children to dinner and opened with words that initially shocked them. I want to talk about my death and exactly what I want to happen before and after. My son nearly choked on his drink. She laughs. But by dessert, they were asking thoughtful questions. 1 month later, my daughter called to thank me, saying she'd started her own end-of-life plan at age 47. What surprises many is the psychological research behind this approach. A groundbreaking study published in the Journal of Gerontological Psychology found that adults who engage in detailed end-of-life planning report 28% higher life satisfaction and significantly greater present-moment appreciation compared to those who avoid the topic. There's a profound paradox here, Patricia notes. By looking directly at my mortality, I've become more fully alive. Once you've confronted your ending, everyday moments take on richer meaning. The unexpected freedom this created has been Patricia's greatest reward. I don't worry about being a burden to my children because we've addressed those concerns openly, she explains. I don't fear medical decisions being made against my wishes. And because I've faced these questions directly, I actually think about death less, not more. For those wondering where to start this process, Patricia suggests one simple document everyone should create this week. A values directive answering 5 questions. 1. What makes a day worth living for you? 1. What abilities or capacities are essential to your quality of life? 1. What medical interventions do you absolutely want to avoid? 1. Who should make decisions for you if you cannot, and have you told them your wishes? 1. What do you want your loved ones to know if you can no longer tell them? These 5 questions can start the most important conversation you'll ever have, Patricia insists. And while it might seem morbid to others, there's nothing more life-affirming than taking ownership of your entire journey, including its conclusion. So I'm genuinely curious, have you had the death conversation with your loved ones? What's holding you back from being more direct about your wishes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The truth is, these 7 ugly behaviors aren't really ugly at all. They're powerful acts of self-reclamation after decades of meeting others' expectations. They're the courage to write your own final chapters rather than following society's limiting script. Look at Patricia now. The woman who once color-coded her calendar and apologized for existing has transformed into someone her former self wouldn't recognize. Her doctor reports her blood pressure normalized, her sleep improved, and her cognitive assessments surpass those of patients 10 years younger. But the profound change isn't measurable by medical tests. It's in her eyes, the unmistakable clarity of someone who's finally stopped shrinking to meet others' expectations. Which of these 7 ugly behaviors will be your first step? Perhaps saying no without explanation, maybe curating your social circle, or planning your final chapter with radical honesty. Your later years aren't about graceful fading, they're about bold authenticity. The decades of compromise are behind you. This is your time to refuse invisibility and reclaim your life on your own terms. If this message resonated with you, hit that like button right now to help other seniors find this permission slip to live authentically. Your single click could be the catalyst another person needs to reclaim their joy. Share in the comments which of these 7 behaviors you're already practicing, or which one you'll try first. Your experience might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear to take their own first step. Subscribe to join our community of seniors refusing to fade into invisibility. Remember, it's never too late to disappoint the right people.